Okay. Hello, I am Erin DeClotz, Director of Admissions at Jesuit High School. I also work as a campus minister here at Jesuit. And, one of the main questions I get as Director of Admissions from prospective families is, what is a Jesuit school? What is Jesuit education? How is it different from Catholic schools? How is it the same? And so I decided today to invite my colleague and my friend, Greg Allen, who's our adult formation director here at Jesuit. He's really an expert on this question. He also teaches theology. So I have Greg here with me today, and we'll get the slideshow going here. One of the most compelling questions, or one of the most compelling parts of this question, is the story of St. Ignatius. This story always draws me in. It's an old story. It's a dramatic story. It's a story of conversion. And so I thought I'd ask you, Greg, to kind of start with that story. Who is St. Ignatius? What's his story?
Great. Well, thanks, folks, for letting me present here. So St. Ignatius started out as Ignatius of Loyola in northern Spain in the early 1500s. He was the 14th child of a wealthy family. He was sent away to work in the courts when he was a late teenager. He was prone to sword fighting and gambling and getting into trouble when he was young. And as he matured into his late 20s, his goal was to become a courtier and to be a soldier and win glory in battle. So he did get into battle at the Battle of the city of Pamplona, but there a cannonball shattered completely his one leg. And so he was laid up you can imagine in the 1500s with no anesthesia. He was laid up for well over a year. Mm-hmm. And that really led to his conversion because he really used that time to reflect on his life, what was going on, what did he want to do, where God was calling him. And he had a mystical conversion, and he chose to reject the life that he had been living and become a spiritual pilgrim. He traveled on foot, really, across southern Europe, and eventually went to the University of Paris, where he met 9 companions. Along the way, over those years, he wrote the Spiritual Exercises, which is a 4-week or 30-day program of spiritual reflection and prayer. And he used that to convert his 9 friends at the University of Paris, and they ended up forming what we today call the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits. He eventually was elected to be their leader, what they call the Superior General. And for the rest of his life, he ran the Jesuit order out of 2 small rooms in Rome.
Yeah, interesting. Another question I get is, how are Jesuits the same? Are Jesuits Catholics? Are Catholics Jesuits? How do they relate? And a metaphor that we like to use is that if you think of Catholic schools or Catholics as ice cream, and then Jesuits are kind of like a flavor of ice cream. So maybe like strawberry ice cream. So Jesuits are Catholic. They're actually an order of priests within the Catholic Church, and they have a specific spirituality, a specific way of being Catholic. So yes, Jesuit schools are Catholic schools, but not all Catholic schools are Jesuit schools. And there's Jesuit schools all over the world, which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
So Jesuit education has quite a long history if we look back. In 1548, the first Jesuit school was founded. That's quite a long time ago. And in 1956, Jesuit High School here in Portland opens its doors. And we belong to a global network of schools. There are 805 Jesuit educational institutions in the world today, and over 700 and right around 780,000 students in those 805 schools. So we are part of a larger global network, which helps us and guides us and gives us direction.
One of the ways that our network guides us, which I'm so grateful for, is that they give us guiding principles and lenses by which to look at our work. So in 2019, the Jesuit order worldwide instructed their works, like us, we're a school, so we have parishes, schools, and other works in the Jesuit, within the Jesuits, instructed us to look at our work through these 4 lenses. We call them the Universal Apostolic Preferences. All 4 of these are really important to our work at Jesuit High School, especially the one about journeying with youth, because that's what we do every day here. That's sort of our main mission. But actually, we look at everything through all 4 of these lenses. So
a couple of questions come up about, well, what makes Jesuit education specific or different? Yes, it's got a over 500-year history, but what I want to talk through with Aaron now is some of the key characteristics of Jesuit education, what we call our way of proceeding as we do our work of educating youth. And we really want to make sure that we are holistic in this approach, and we try and educate youth in mind, body, and spirit. Now, one of our big phrases here is a Latin phrase, ad maiorem Dei gloriam, AMDG, and that means for the greater glory of God. And you will see this AMDG around Jesuit as you wander the campus. But what it really means is, how do we make choices and choosing the more universal good, the better, when we have options and choices? And how do we put aside our own pride, our search for honor and vainglory? How do we put that aside and really choose the more universal good, which is for the greater glory of God? Another Latin phrase that we use and try and instill into our students is age quod agis, which means do well whatever you do. I like to put the emphasis on do and say, do what you do. Fully engage in whatever you might be doing, whether it's sports, academics, robotics, clubs. Be fully engaged and inspired interiorly to do whatever you're doing, and do it well.
Another characteristic of Jesuit schools, and when I say Jesuit schools, I don't mean high schools only. We also have a lot of colleges and universities that are Jesuit schools across the world, and a lot in the United States. But academic excellence is a hallmark of Jesuit education, and I can say that for sure about Jesuit High School in particular. But we want to train and form young minds to be critical thinkers, to be creative problem solvers, really to be, in the end, to be men and women for others who go out in the world and see the problems that need to be solved and think of new ways to solve them. And that's why being interdisciplinary in our approach is so important, because the problems that we face in the world are very interdisciplinary problems, where we need to take everything that we've learned and synthesize it and use it to do good in the world. We think of people who come out of Jesuit schools as contemplatives in action. So those who are thoughtful and reflective, but also people of action who will be leaders and who will go out and change the world, set the world on fire, we like to say. Maybe not literally, but. Another hallmark of Jesuit education, or another word, is the MAGIS, which is similar to what Greg talked about with ad maiorem Dei gloriam, but MAGIS is the more, or the greater good. So we seek to form young men and women who find that the MAGIS, who seek the MAGIS, the greater good for the common good. It's to go deeper, to engage more fully, and deepen our understanding. This is very countercultural in the 21st century, because so much of what we have coming at us causes us to be pretty shallow in our thinking. We don't have a lot of time, and the information we're given is not always deep and thorough, but we really do challenge our students to deepen their understanding of the issues, of what they're learning, and move to greater connection.
Another aspect that we get from St. Ignatius is finding God in all things. And that was a big phrase for Ignatius, and part of his ministry was finding God where God is active and engaged in our life, because God's presence is in all of our daily events, the ups and downs of our lives. And so if we're going to become lifelong learners, we should be able to discern where God is calling us, and discern between the various goods that we have. I love this picture that's on top. This was a sunrise that was filmed by or shot by one of our seniors as they were waking up on the morning of their senior pilgrimage. They had walked 12 miles to a church in Washington and had a mass and a meal and went to sleep. And most of the students missed this glorious sunrise. But there were a few who got up early and they were able to go out there and see it. So sometimes we need to find God by going the extra mile, by doing some deep reflection, and really asking those deeper questions. Another hallmark of Jesuit education is service learning. All of our students do 65 hours or more of service. And that service entails working and walking with the marginalized, people who have been marginalized in some way. And we do it locally and internationally. This top picture, the young student in the green is my daughter, Annabelle, who went to Panama and worked in a very remote area of Panama with the people there in their village. So we have a lot of opportunities for service learning here at Jesuit.
Yeah, and some of our students refer to their service as the most impactful experience of their time here, which is it's really wonderful. So one other hallmark, you'll hear this term in Jesuit schools across the world, is Cura Personalis. And this is Latin for care of the individual, care for the whole person. This is something that we take very seriously. Our faculty want to treat their students as individuals, get to know them as people, journey with them as they grow. All students are different. They come to us at different levels and different, they have all different interests and all different backgrounds. So we really try to get to know our students. And we think of our education as not just imparting information, but really an education of formation. So not just forming or attending to the intellectual academic side of a student, but to the personal side and the emotional side and the spiritual side of our students. The profile of the graduate at graduation is an amazing kind of like a compass, like a map that Jesuit schools across the United States have created, and we all share. These are 5 characteristics that we work to develop in our students as they're with us for 4 years. Now, none of us can say that we're perfectly all of these characteristics at any point in our life, but something that we strive to be more of is to be more religious, more open to growth, more loving, more committed to doing justice, more intellectually competent. And everything we do at Jesuit will point to one of these 5 characteristics and the fact that we are trying to develop these in our students. Our students can name these 5 characteristics off the top of their head when they graduate because we talk about them a lot and they're very omnipresent around campus and in our programs. So all with the goal, of course, in the end of forming men and women for and with others in the world that will be leaders for the common good as they go out beyond their education at a Jesuit school. So the question is, will you join us? We hope that you'll find out more about Jesuit High School, and we hope that you will consider becoming part of this great long 475-year tradition plus. And we hope to see you on campus soon. Thanks for coming today. Bye-bye.
Thanks, folks.